United States President Donald Trump announced the end of the war in the Gaza Strip, or more precisely, that Israel has agreed to a complete ceasefire. At the same time, one of the Israeli officials confirmed that Israel has accepted the latest proposal for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and the release of hostages. He added that the updated framework provides the United States with more reliable guarantees for ending the war. But it is still unclear whether Hamas will agree to such a proposal or not. But there are still a number of questions in this news that cast doubt on Donald Trump's statement that peace will soon come to the Gaza Strip. Let's figure out this situation together. My name is Alex Ipicci. Today is July 2nd. Let's go through everything step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and write any comment you like. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as soon as it comes in. So, confirmation from Israeli officials that they agreed to a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip came right after President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that Israel had agreed to the necessary conditions for a ceasefire in Gaza. Israel's Minister of Strategic Affairs, Ron Dermer, agreed to the proposal while he was in Washington on Tuesday evening. What prompted Trump to make a social media post announcing that Israel agreed to a ceasefire? Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar stated during a press conference in Estonia on Wednesday that Israel is serious about reaching a hostage agreement and a ceasefire. Two representatives of Donald Trump's administration said that Hamas still needs to agree to the deal and everyone is waiting for their response. And in a post on Truth Social, Trump said that the Qataris and Egyptians are helping to achieve a ceasefire. Next is a quote from Trump. Today, my representatives had a long and productive meeting with the Israelis about Gaza. Israel has agreed to the necessary conditions for establishing a 60-day ceasefire, during which we will work with all parties to end this war. The Qataris and Egyptians, who have worked very hard to help bring peace, will present this final proposal. And now Hamas militants have already stated that they are considering the latest ceasefire proposal in the Gaza Strip, but they are not saying whether they will accept the deal. Earlier, it became known that on Tuesday the Qatari authorities presented Hamas and Israel with a new proposal for a 60-day ceasefire, which was supported by the Donald Trump administration. The proposal was finally agreed upon after several months of behind-the-scenes efforts led by Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff. An Israeli official reported that under the latest proposal, Israel agreed to allow an increase in humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, but through the traditional United Nations channel, not through the controversial Gaza Humanitarian Aid Fund supported by the United States. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will convene his entire cabinet on Saturday evening to discuss this proposal. And already on Monday next week, he is flying to Washington to meet with Trump. But despite statements from Trump and certain officials, the issue has not yet been resolved, and Netanyahu may send a delegation to participate in ceasefire negotiations only after meeting with Trump. And only then will it become clear whether a peace in the Gaza Strip is near. This new proposal came just a few days after the same Qatar helped broker a ceasefire agreement between Iran and Israel following United States and Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear program. And a few months after the initial ceasefire proposal by the Trump administration in the Gaza Strip was rejected by Hamas militants. And now, the new version of the agreement, which the Qataris also worked on, tried to address Hamas's concerns about the earlier proposal. During the ceasefire, Israeli hostages will be released in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. An Israeli military official said Israel had not fully achieved all its military objectives the day before. But since Hamas forces have diminished and gone underground, it has become more difficult to effectively fight the remnants of this militant group. On Sunday, Netanyahu said that after Israel's military operations in Iran, many opportunities have opened up, including the possibility of bringing home the remaining hostages held in the Gaza Strip. On Tuesday, Trump told reporters that he would be very tough in negotiations with Netanyahu at the meeting scheduled for next week at the White House. And he predicted that the Prime Minister of Israel would want to put an end to this war. But even with the new proposal on the negotiating table, a ceasefire agreement remains a very, very serious problem. Hamas has long insisted on a permanent ceasefire, so it's unclear whether they will agree to a temporary 60-day truce. Hamas also still maintains its main demand that the war must be ended completely and that Hamas must remain in power, which of course Israel will not allow. Nevertheless, there are some signs that Hamas is ready to show some, as American media are now reporting, flexibility regarding its hardline position. That's what the White House is currently saying. In addition, it's important to remember that besides the goal of bringing the hostages home, Netanyahu hasn't actually backed down from his more maximalist goals. That includes the disarmament of the Gaza Strip and the destruction of Hamas's military capabilities and administrative capacities. And here I'll give you today's quote from Netanyahu. I'm telling you, there will be no Hamas, there will be no Hamastan, we will not go back to that. For them, it's over. We'll bring back all our hostages. You understand the rhetoric, right? Later, Netanyahu softened it slightly, stating that bringing the hostages back is more important than destruction. Hamas. But again, don't be mistaken. Netanyahu said that many opportunities have opened up after Israel's military operations in Iran, including the possibility of bringing home everyone who is still held captive by Hamas. And here he adds the following quote: "First, we need to rescue the hostages, and of course, we will also need to solve the Gaza problem and defeat Hamas." I believe we will accomplish both missions. As for Hamas, the militants have three main demands left: a complete and final ceasefire, the provision of humanitarian aid, but only to the United Nations and only through the militants. Hamas also demands that Israel withdraw to the positions it held as of March 2nd of this year, before resuming its offensive and occupying the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Hamas claims that it is ready to return all the hostages at once, but is waiting for guarantees that the war will not resume afterward. And here is this telling statement. So the militants are publicly stating that they, like real terrorists, have taken people hostage and will only release them after you give us guarantees that you won't destroy us. So, as you understand, the biggest stumbling block between the warring sides is the question of whether the ceasefire will be temporary or become a path to a permanent truce. Hamas has also not shown any willingness to give up its political and military power in the Gaza Strip, and Israel has not abandoned the idea of completely destroying Hamas. Therefore, it is absolutely unclear what the new negotiations will lead to. So I'll leave it at that for now. Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe, hit the bell, and like the video. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.